What's up, everybody? With Halloween coming up soon, I decided to do a movie review. I don't really do a lot of movie reviews, I'm more of a game reviewer, but I've been looking for this movie for a long time, but really wanting to watch it. And last week, I was able to get my hands on it, and that movie is Nosferatu. This movie came out in 1922. Obviously, I have a remastered edition that came out on DVD, which, I guess it's a lot easier to get your hands on. For those who are unaware, Nosferatu is, to my understanding, the original Dracula movie. It's also the first instance that Dracula, or the vampire for that matter, is weak to sunlight. Now, I've always heard so many things about this movie, going back to the references of it that were made on Are You Afraid of the Dark, and on SpongeBob for that matter. So I always had a little inkling to want to figure out what this movie was all about. So, like I stated, I believe, 1922 this was made. It's a black and white film, even though in this copy of it, it has also shades of yellow, which I don't know if it was, a thing back in the day, because I never saw black and white movies when they came out, especially because this is going on 100 years old. It's a silent film, and, for what it's worth, I thought I wasn't going to like this movie. I thought it was I'm so used to text or not text, like dialogue in movies, that this was actually kind of cool because you would see all the action happening on screen. And if there was words, they would be mouthed, but then a text overlay would kind of come over the screen, kind of like a subtitle almost, but it would take up the whole screen and show you what the words are supposed to be. So it was up to your imagination to figure out what the voices of the people sounded like, and that kind of, it helps out if you're really, really in the zone. Nosferatu, as you could see by the cover, it's just a really, really creepy looking Dracula, or vampire for that matter, played by a guy who I believe his name was Max Schreck. Yes. Without giving too much away, basically, this movie has a guy who sells houses. He's like a real estate agent, and his boss sends him, I think it's Transylvania for that matter, to go try to sell a house that's across the street from him to Nosferatu, who's secretly a vampire. The guy doesn't know this going into it, so he goes into town, and he's like, oh, I have to go to Nosferatu's mansion. And pretty much the townspeople are throwing him against it, don't do it. He ends up getting to the mansion, and from the get-go, it's nothing but creepy. For a movie that came out, is it 96 years ago now, and has, I would say, quite aged well if you can throw out the fact that there were really no special effects back then, and pretty much the actual creepiness of this movie is just the production value. It's naturally a creepy freaking movie. The score, the music they had playing in the background, fits it perfectly. It's great. It was originally a German film, which, it's weird looking at it. And this came out in 1922, so when this movie came out, World War II was still 17 years from happening, which is crazy. So for any of you who like those really old school, creepy, just odd, weird movies that you can use your imagination for, I watched this last week with my lights off. My mom was like, what are you watching? I was like, well, it's this. And she couldn't get into it because there was no dialogue. To me, I guess, you get used to it. The art form, I read a lot of books, so seeing the words on screen was nothing. For any of you who, like I said, love those creepy type of movies, something that just, even without words, is just very, very odd and interesting, I suggest check this out. It's only about an hour and a half long. It's separated, I think, into 3 or 4 acts, which is weird because it makes it more like a play, even though it was a movie at the time. I don't know if that was a popular thing back then, but I really enjoyed it. So check it out. F.W. Murnau's, correct me if I'm saying that wrong, Nosferatu. Like I said, it took me a while to find this, at least in the wild on DVD. I bought it new at an FYE, go figure, in the wild. You can probably get it off Amazon. I only paid, I think, $10 for it. I know they did a remake of it in the 60s. I don't know how well that version is, but I would say before you watch that, go for the original, because it's the gold standard of what the movie should portray, I feel. So that's Nosferatu for you. I didn't want to give away too much of the story. If you want to go get weirded out for an hour and a half, pick up this movie. I hope, and I can't say I guarantee because everyone's different, but I wasn't disappointed, so I hope you aren't either. Peace.